We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel, ring the notification bell, smash the like button, share the video if you want to support this college football's Rebel Outpost with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that $ where you make your comment and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with the phone calls. I know. I get it. Just like yesterday, all of you are watching college basketball, March Madness. It's a beautiful thing. I'm not trying to get in the way. I'm just talking college football. That is what we do here. It takes an extreme college football sicko to listen to a college football YouTube show during March Madness. But that's exactly what I am. And it looks like there's a few of you out there in the country that is as sick as the fat guy from Minnesota. MBM Wrestling March Madness and PATC. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Bruce Harris is in the house. Utah Utes. Rich Austin is here. MBM. Old Dad. Mr. Seminole Bimba 75-79. I'm just glad Michigan upgraded its coach. Sorry, Utah. Messy divorce should have happened 3 years earlier, but relieved to be rid of Witt. Utah has our guy in Morgan Scally. Go Utes. The other guy, Gax. Hi, Greg. I'm listening to you with the volume off on the TV where I'm watching the tournament. All right? There's not a... All right? I appreciate that, Mr. Gygax. I appreciate that. I'm interested in what a lot of people think of this divorce in Utah. It's a messy divorce, and whose fault is that it's messy? I got my thoughts, and I think I might get both sides a little bit upset with me on this issue. I'm very interested to hear what you guys got to say. Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm afraid to become a legend. Coy's in the house. Jose is here. Christopher Hooter, go Tigers. We had the Lane Kiffin rule live show yesterday. The Lane Kiffin rule that they're trying to put into the House bill, trying to get that enacted, putting that in the SCORE Act. Wow. Bob Swanger is in the house. Tom DeBay is here. Yes. In Minnesota, it's feeling pretty good here. The sun is out, warmer weather, the snow is melting, feeling really good. It's not the last day of winter in Minnesota, unfortunately. We will have a decent-sized snowstorm in the first or second week in April. We've had that. I mean, it just lasts a day, but it happens. And it usually happens during the Gophers spring football game. This year, the Gophers have got that spring football game moved in late April. So we should be okay. We should be okay. All right. We got a couple of items here. Couple of items to talk about before we talk about what happened in Utah between Kyle Whittingham, Athletic Director Harlan, the Utah Youth Football Program in Michigan. We'll get to that in a moment, and I am very interested to hear what you all got to say. A couple of, first of all, President Donald Trump has signed an executive order stating that no college football game should be broadcast in competition with the annual Army-Navy game on the second weekend of December. Trump talked about this a couple of months ago, and now it finally happened. It's an executive order. We do know that Army and Navy, at least one side of that equation, is interested in moving that Army-Navy game off of the second week in December. They'll move it a little bit earlier. So who knows if this, how long they will even be playing in the second week of December. But I think most of the country would agree that the Army-Navy game should be respected. There should be a TV window spot open just for Army and Navy. And the reasons why should be self-evident. The young men and women, Army and Navy, they are the best of us. They protect this country. They serve this country. They sacrifice for this country. And their football programs should get all the exposure because it represents the incredible military academies that we have and the people that serve in this country. So there it is, official. Matt Fortuna, an executive order to protect Army and Navy. We also have It's not really a big breaking news yet. The Division I Membership Committee by Sam Herder, yes, another committee, has been having discussions on the possible creation of an autonomy subdivision. It's difficult to read. I'm going to read it real quick for y'all. It's very, well, let me just get through it. Discussions of referrals from the NCAA Division I decision-making group. The NCAA Division I Membership Committee continued its discussion of the first of two referrals from the NCAA Division I decision-making working group, specifically as part of its exploration of the possible creation of an autonomy subdivision and defining autonomy status such that the criteria are established, and committee reviewed and discussed data from the NCAA demographics database and NCAA membership, financial, and sponsorship, sports to revenues. Database. The committee reviewed subdivision-specific data ranging from enrollment size and sponsored sports to revenues and expenses. The committee also identified additional information to review at a future meeting, including an analysis of sponsored sports in areas of autonomy and related legislation. The committee also agreed to review financial, sports sponsorship, student-athlete experience, and use of resources information summarized by conference at a future meeting. Finally, the committee discussed factors that might inform a future definition of an autonomy conference and outlined 4 areas for the consideration. Number 1, governance. 2, enforcement. 3, committee. 4, rules. What does all that mean? What does all that mean? Well, at this point, nothing. It absolutely means nothing. So, Greg, why did you bring it up? Because it might mean something down the road. Another committee having another discussion. This committee has had more than one discussion. An autonomy subdivision. Who would be in that subdivision? We don't know. This is more for the smaller schools. I don't think this would affect college basketball, right? We're going to have March Madness. This isn't going to divide the basketball situation. But again, possibly looking at combining subdivisions, an autonomy subdivision with their own rules and enforcement, splitting away from the bigger schools. That's how I'm reading it. But we don't know other than that, we don't know anything, because we can consider revenue, consider enrollment, and consider the sport. It could be different for different, blah, 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 blah. Another committee talking about a possible subdivision. This has been going on for quite a while. Multiple subcommittees have talked about it. They like meetings. They like to go into meetings. We're going to keep an eye on this. If it comes up to be anything, we'll talk about it. But right now, it doesn't mean anything at all, to be honest with you. All right. But I want to be able to say we talked about it the time this news release came out. But it's the committee talking about in a subdivision. And what would it mean for a subdivision, a new subdivision? And what does it mean to have an autonomy conference in that autonomy subdivision, and on and on and on. All right. So let's get to it. Let's talk about the Washington Huskies. Let's talk about the Washington Huskies. I do not think any of that is about a Power 4 breakaway. Jose P4 breakaway. I don't think that's what that is. I could be wrong. But I think we're talking about really small schools in different sports. Might create a subdivision, FCS, plus maybe some G6 schools, mixing it up in different sports, and then that has its own rule making, enforcement of the rules. We'll see. Washington Huskies. Optimism growing. Jed Fish on 3 report. Now, we're just going to go through a little bit of this. During the off season, we're going to do a spotlight series. We're going to talk about every single team in the Power 4. We're going to put the spotlight on them, the PATC spotlight. We're going to break them down, talk about the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly of every one of your teams. Just to get it warmed up, just to get us warmed up a little bit, let's talk about the Washington Huskies with Demond Williams back. Demond Williams, the quarterback. Jed Fish believes that 2026, the Washington roster, Washington's Husky roster, ready to make a jump. We just go through part of this article, a little bit of this article. Washington head coach Jed Fish believes his third roster in Seattle might finally be the one ready to break into the college football playoff conversation. After navigating a roster overhaul in year 1 and a young roster in year 2, Fish believes the Huskies are positioned to take their biggest jump yet in 2026. But for 48 hours in January, Washington hopes for 2026 we're hanging in the balance. Starting quarterback Demond Williams announced his intention to enter the transfer portal on Instagram on the night of January 6th, catching Fish and his staff off guard. Now, PATC money shot number 1 of this article. It wasn't just that Demond Williams went in the portal January 6th. Not only did he signed the contract, remember he signed a contract with Washington that had a buyout provision in it. It's that he catch Fish and his staff off guard. They did not know. They did not know that he had any intention of doing this. It was out of the blue. The quarterback, the leader, with multiple programs working to get Williams into the portal, Fish went to work figuring out what it would take to keep his quarterback in Seattle. Within 48 hours, Williams announced he was staying put. Washington had its quarterback. Williams ultimately never officially entered the portal. The Big Ten contract worked. Last year, we were still young, Fish said. At one point, we were starting 7 true freshmen. Now those guys are sophomores. We lost some big pieces. 5 guys went in the NFL combined. But I feel really good about where our roster is. This team is probably the most ready of the 3 years to take a jump. Optimism in Washington. I'm a believer in the 2014 playoff, Fish said. Jed Fish, the head coach of Washington, part of the Army of 24. I'm a believer in the 2014 playoff, Fish said. If you look at the math, the NFL has 32 teams. Almost half the league goes into the playoffs. It's 14 teams. So we've got 64. We don't have 64. We've got more than 64, Jed Fish. We've got more than 64. We've got 34 between the SEC and the Big Ten. We've got another 33 among the Big 12 and the ACC. That's 67. You've got Notre Dame. I think you got to throw in, I don't know. It don't matter. We've got more than 64. We've got 64 power conference teams. So almost half. 24 is a little bit less, but I feel like that's right. Well, and you can't just take an effect of 68 power conference schools, because there's 138 FBS schools. 136 have the ability to go to the playoffs. Jed Fish, a believer in playoffs of 24 teams. My biggest argument, this is Jed Fish, my biggest argument has always been that we work as many hours as pro coaches. We ask these players to commit just as much time to football and academics as pro players. Why are they playing 3 preseason games, 17 regular season games, and 4 playoff games? And why are we playing 12 games? Why not give these kids more opportunities to keep playing? There'll be more opportunities for more teams to be involved in the postseason. It'll be more exciting. It will bring more money. We need money to compete. So I think it's great. Jed Fish on board. 2014 playoffs. And finally, in the article that we're going to cover, Jed Fish is confident Washington can take the next step in 2026. I just happen to have a couple of jobs open that I was connected to based on history, not based on me wanting to leave Washington, he said. And then it becomes one of those, does he want to leave? The answer is no. I talked to the leadership council about it. I told them exactly what was going on and what was not going on. I told them exactly how I felt and where my mind was. And that's why I don't think our players had any distraction. Do you buy it? Do you buy the fact that everything is okay in the Washington Huskies locker room? Demond Williams, the quarterback, he was going to go in the portal. He announced he was going in the portal, Instagram, and then, well, all the information came out about the contract and how a team that would take Demond Williams would have to, whatever $4 million would be counted against their own rev share budget. According to what the contract said, that Demond Williams signed at Washington. Suddenly, maybe there wasn't all that much interested in Demond Williams anymore. I don't know. You let me know what you think. So you've got a quarterback. You've got a quarterback who wanted to leave, but decided to come back. That's okay. That's fine. You've got a head coach that was connected to a few different jobs out there. Florida was the big one. Was Jed Fish really not interested in going to Florida, or did he never become the Gators' number 1 target? So there are questions. Washington, very well-coached team, an athletic team, a talented team. But are they going to be okay in the locker room? That's the storyline. That is the storyline. I got to be honest with you. And let's take a look at their football schedule, shall we? Let's take a look at the Washington Huskies schedule. Let's see where we're going to find out if that locker room is okay, if there's cohesion, if everybody's going for the same thing, a Big Ten championship game, an invite to the playoffs. Let's take a look. Let's not be shy. Let's take a look. I think some of you know where I'm going with this. They start out with Washington State, September 5th, Utah State, September 12th, Eastern Washington, September 19th, and then, bam, at home against mine and yours beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. But not only that, ladies and gentlemen, not only that, Washington plays at USC the week after. And then at home in Iowa the week after that. You don't think the Washington Huskies, if they're not completely bought in, if they don't have complete cohesion, you don't think they're going to be looking out over that Gopher game and thinking about their rival USC fight on? We are going to learn a lot about the Washington Huskies on September 26th. On September 26th, for the first time ever, Big Ten conference game. The Washington Huskies versus the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Let's go. Let's go. D-Man Williams, we're going to find out a lot. We are going to find out a lot. Super Chat. Evil Badger. Some coaches and players hang on tight to their careers before they lose their grip and fall off the cliff. For example, Belichick, Warren Moon, Brady, Breeze, Favre, and Rodgers. Very good. Thank you for the Super Chat, Evil Badger. Thank you for the $10 holler. That's a very good post. Not only some coaches and players, but a lot of coaches and players hang on to their careers tight right before they lose their grip. And that is a great segue into Kyle Whittingham. Utah, what happened? Let's get into it. Evil Badger, thank you so much for your generosity. I appreciate it. That is a very good post. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. MBM says UW loses in Minnesota. The game is at Washington, unfortunately. Unfortunately. MBM says take the captaincy off of Mr. Williams' jersey. Holy smokes. Tough Tony, fun fact, Minnesota has played Washington 19 times. Minnesota has played Penn State 19 times. RFR Mac, thanks for coming on in. Mr. Utah Ute. Whittingham was going to leave Utah's program in good shape. That's why he coached last year. Really? Stealing coaches and players is the way to do this? Utah is moving on with our new head coach. We're going to get to that in a second. RFR Mac, I appreciate you, Utah Ute, coming in the chat room. Rest in peace, Chuck Morris. Exactly. Prayers to Chuck Norris's wife, loved ones. Chuck Norris, karate, back-to-back karate champion. Decades ago, Chuck Norris, the real deal Holyfield, legitimate karate champion, goes into movies. I did not watch Texas Walker, whatever that show is called. But anyways, rest in peace, Chuck Norris. Prayers to the loved ones and families. So let's get into this Utah thing. I will give you my opinion after we go through this. You give me your opinion. Utah messy divorce. It's done. The divorce is done. I have two minds on this. One, I'm kind of stunned what Whittingham asked for from Utah. I'm kind of shook. I don't want to question the motivations, but what Kyle Whittingham asked for in his to be the head coach for one more year, I thought that was, let me put it this way. Again, this is just me speculating. It's just me speculating. Him and his agent made an offer that Utah had to turn down. They had to turn it down. So that's one aspect to it. But I do believe that Harlan, the athletic director of Utah, made a mistake as well in this divorce. So let's get to it. Kyle Whittingham wanted to stay at Utah. Athletic director displeased with transition records show. From The Athletic. We're not going to go through the whole article, just a little bit of it. Kyle Whittingham, who's now the head coach at Michigan, wanted to return to Utah for 2026. All right. Kyle Whittingham, we all know, a long-time successful head coach of Utah. A very important piece of the history of Utah, as they have advanced upwards in football brand, which has helped their university. Kyle Whittingham is a big part of all that. Back to the article. That was the message his representatives sent university officials in documents The Athletic obtained Friday via an opens records request from Utah. Whittingham, the face of Utah football for 21 years, had led the Utes from the Mountain West Conference upstart to an eventual repeat Pac-12 champion and into the Big 12. But the 66-year-old surprisingly parted ways with Utah on Friday, December 12th, a week after he was contractually required to inform the university of his hope to return for a 22nd year as head coach. Friday, December 12th, Kyle Whittingham parted ways with Utah, and that was 1 week after he was required to inform the university of his hope to return for a 22nd year as head coach. On December 2nd, Whittingham's agent Bruce Tollner emailed Jeff Rudy, Utah's director of football operations, informing him that Coach Whittingham does not intend to retire at the conclusion of the 2025 football season. 1 day later, the agent again emailed Rudy, the Utah director of football operations, with a new 1 year proposal to return as Utah's head coach in 2026 with a $9 million salary. A guaranteed NIL allotment of $20 million. And a salary pool increase of $2 million for Utah's assistant coaches. Now get a load of this. Whittingham had a base salary of $6.9 million in his final year as Utah's head coach. Now you can debate if you want that Whittingham should have been making more money than $6.9 million, or you can say he should have been making less money. Oh, okay, that's fine. But Whittingham, one more year as a head coach, 1 year proposal, wanted a $2.1 million increase? A $2 million increase for the assistant coach? That is what you get when you've just won a conference championship. That is what you get when you've got something going here and the athletic department is going to commit to you. You don't get that as a 66-year-old head coach knowing that you've already got the next coach in place. That's the first part I want to see. There is no way that Utah is going to say, oh yeah, this is good, this is fine. A 1 year head coach. We're going to give you way more money than you've made. Way more money and way more of everything for your one last year. Now, if they're going to make that investment like that, that would be like giving it to the new coach. And I'm just speculating. I'm just speculating here. Okay? But I cannot believe that this is just my take, all right? I cannot believe that the agent and Kyle Whittingham thought that Utah would ever say yes to that. Maybe they were setting a bar in which if Whittingham got another opportunity, which eventually he did, and we'll get to that in a moment, that they could say, this is what us in Utah were talking about. Can you beat this to another team? I don't know, but I don't believe, I just find it hard to believe that Whittingham thought that Utah was actually going to say yes to him. I think he basically he let Utah know that I'm not going to retire. This is what I want. And he knew that Utah was going to say no. That's my first take on this. Utah, back to the article. Utah instead opted in to fulfill a long-expected succession plan with defensive coordinator and coach in waiting, Morgan Scalley, whom it named head coach on Saturday, December 13th. And before we get on to the rest of the article, I just want to I have completely changed my mind. I thought it was a good idea to have a coach in waiting. I thought that is a good way to do it. When you have a long-time successful coach, probably going to retire in a year, have a already in coach waiting, already named, ready to go. I don't like that idea. And now that I think about it, I don't like that idea because you're going to have split loyalties in the athletic department between Whittingham and Scalley in so many different ways. I don't think that Morgan Scalley might become a great head coach for Utah, but I have changed my mind. I do not like that in coach waiting situation. Anyways, in a contract amendment obtained by the Athletic, the university in Whittingham agreed to a buyout of a transition bonus amendment of $13.5 million to be paid in 3 installments from 2026 through 2028. So remember, Whittingham is going to continue to get paid by Utah. The divorce is settled, but not all the money has gone from Utah to Whittingham, as far as I've understood this. A bullet point underneath that clause termed transition bonus expectations stated that in consideration of this buyout, Coach Whittingham agrees that he will work with the university and athletics department to facilitate a smooth and successful transition of the football program to the incoming head coach of the football program and its coaching staff. A clause, transition bonus expectations. Whittingham agrees that he will work with the university, facilitate a smooth and successful transition of the football program to the incoming head coach. On December 26, 2025, Michigan signed Whittingham to a 5-year, $41 million contract after the program was rocked by scandal with the firing and arrest of former head coach Sharon Moore. So let's be honest with each other here. When Kyle Whittingham agreed to the buyout of $13.5 million, when Utah agreed to the buyout of $13.5 million, 3 installments of $13.5 million, nobody thought that the Michigan head coaching job would become available before the 2026 season. In fact, I would argue nobody thought that a head coaching job would be open in any big time program that might be interested in Kyle Whittingham when all this happened, when the buyout was signed. What happened at Michigan was very unusual. The coaching carousel had basically completely stopped. Everybody had signed on with a new contract with big buyouts, and there sat Kyle Whittingham in the catbird seat, magically, the perfect spot at the perfect time for Kyle Whittingham to get the Michigan job, because he would not be the head coach of Michigan, in my opinion, if everything did not just fall into place. Utah Athletic Director Mark Harlan informed the former Utes coach in January that the first payment of the contract's transition bonus portion was on its way. But Harlan voices displeasure with Whittingham, who in the weeks after going to Michigan hired several Utah assistant coaches, including the successful offensive coordinator Jason Beck, which Harlan believed to be a violation of the language in the separation agreement of a smooth and successful transition. And I'll give you my thoughts on that here in a little bit. So Harlan letting Whittingham know, okay, that first installment of the 3 installments of $13.5 million, The first one due in 2026, the second one due in 2027, the third one due in 2028. The first installment is on its way to Whittingham's bank account. But at the same time, Harlan is saying, I ain't happy, man. I am not happy. You did not follow the smooth transition bonus portion of the buyout contract. Harlan, as you know, the university was disappointed by your actions last month, Harlan wrote. The university felt that your involvement with recruiting our football coaches and staff in Michigan was contrary to the terms of your employment agreement, which requires you to assist with a smooth and successful transition of the football program to the new coach and his coaching staff. Harlan contended that rather than attempting to pursue a breach of contract dispute due to terms in their separation agreement, the university determined that a fight over this issue would not be in the long-term interest of the university and its football program, of your legacy as your long-time football coach, as our long-time football coach. So Harlan is disappointed. He's not happy. He doesn't believe that Whittingham met the criteria in the buyout provision of assisting with a smooth, successful transition, handing off the reins to the defensive coordinator, Coach Scally. But on the other hand, Harlan basically telling Whittingham, you're scot-free. Because we're not going to fight over it, because long-term interest of the university, football program, and your legacy. Finally, in the article, Whittingham also would have forfeited his buyout had he publicly sought or accepted a paid or unpaid position with any other college in the state of Utah before January 9th, 2028. Again, he ended up signing with Michigan. The agreement did not prevent Whittingham from seeking a coaching position outside the state, which happened 2 weeks after he parted ways with the program he built into a consistent winner. Harlan and the Utah Athletic Department declined further comment on the matter. According to a university spokesperson on Friday morning, Whittingham representatives were not immediately available for comment at the time of publication. Okay. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. Then we're going to go to your thoughts. But let me go through a couple of super chats. Very kind super chats. Helmer Hennison. Oh, that was a message retracted. $5 holler. Thank you, Helmer Hennison. I appreciate it. MBM, super chat. $5 holler. Did Whittingham compose a farewell to Utah fans? Gundy never did. I don't know if Whittingham did or not. Somebody can answer that in the chat room. Did Kyle Whittingham compose a farewell to Utah fans of the university? I don't know. Mike Gundy never did. That kind of surprises me. RFR Mac, Mr. Utah Ute. He did not want much, did he? Yeah, So that's the first thing that I thought of when I read the report. It's like Whittingham, he said, yeah, I still want to be the head coach. But goodness gracious, their proposal was one in which I don't know how they would think that Utah would say yes to that. To a 1 more year head coach, that kind of I gotta be honest with you, that kind of bothers me about what Whittingham did there. But it made it easy for Utah to say no. It made it easy for Utah to say no. Thank you, MBM. Appreciate the super chat. Thank you for the $5 holler. I appreciate it. Let me give you my opinion on this. And then we'll get your opinions, phone calls, super chats. It has become expected that if you have a coach that leaves for another job, he's going to target your players. It happens all the time, everywhere. It's part of the gig. You are expected to do so. If you're getting signed by another team, now your obligation is to make that team as good as you can, fast as you can. You are obligated to go after you are obligated to do what you can. When Kyle Whittingham signed that Michigan contract, now he works for Michigan. It's up to Utah. And again, Utah's not going to go over they're not going to go to court with this. They're just going to pay the installments. Because it is so expected that if you are a new head coach of a team, you're going to look at your own players first. If you want that buyout provision, the smooth transition, your coach to ensure a smooth transition, you've got to be really specific. You got to say, and you cannot poach our current coaching staff. You cannot poach our current players. But can you even say that, though? You can't stop your current players from going to the portal to play with their head coach. You can't even you can't do that unless they sign a contract and there's, and all that stuff. I completely understand why the Utah Ute fans are upset. I understand the emotion of it. I do. Of course, it happens all the time. Eric Morris, Oklahoma State, he absolutely raided North Texas. Kirk Cinetti got off on the right foot because he had an excellent James Madison team. Elijah Surratt, he brought them all over. And look what they did at Indiana. They made the playoffs 2 years ago, won the championship last year. So the Kyle Whittingham going after back the offensive coordinator and some of the players, I do not agree with Harlan's sentiment on that. And I made that known on X, the conversation I had with Coos Corner. So I find this messy divorce, I find fault on both sides. Whittingham, that was a ridiculous proposal that he put out to Utah. Basically making Utah as, kind of putting up Utah as the bad guy and saying, well, they did not want me for another year. He made a proposal that Utah had to say no to. Kyle Whittingham made himself the victim in this. And then he got the buyout, a great buyout. And after that, everything just, nobody would have expected the Michigan job to come open at a time when the coaching carousel was over, all the big-time coaches with any success over the last decade are all locked in with new buyout contracts. Michigan was fortunate enough that there was Kyle Whittingham available. And Kyle Whittingham was very fortunate that the Michigan job had come open. And there was no way that Utah could have expected that. No way. But I don't think Kyle Whittingham, again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't think Kyle Whittingham, it's a tough thing. You lose your head coach. He goes to a big-time program. You're going to lose some of your players. You're going to lose a coach. It's just going to happen. I would have been shocked if it would not have happened. And I think Utah Ute fans, I think most of them understand that. Now, this has come out and has stirred up emotions again. I do find that Utah Ute fans are pretty optimistic about this season. I'm optimistic for Utah this season. I think they got a decent chance to get to the Big 12 championship game. Utah, BYU, Houston, maybe Kansas State. To go play the Red Raiders in the Big 12 championship game, because there's only room for one spot in the Big 12 championship game. The Red Raiders have one spot. There's room for one more. And I think Utah's got a decent shot. And Morgan Scalley, it's a tough situation for him because defensive coordinator Kyle Whittingham's leaving. They've taken the offensive coordinator, taken some of his players. Kind of a tough situation. They were able to keep their quarterback, Devin Dampier. That's a big deal. All right, so put down your comments. Give me a phone call. I'm going to open up the phone lines. You can talk about anything in college football that your heart desires. 763-260-1333. Let me know how wrong I got it. The Washington Huskies, optimistic. The Utah Utes, optimistic. Let me know what you're thinking. Talk about anything you want to talk about in college football. Again, I know a lot of you are watching college basketball. That's great. That's awesome. But we talk college football 365, almost 365 during the year.
From
Patron, the floor is yours.
Hey, good afternoon, Greg. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, it's interesting. I have a lot of respect for Kyle Whittingham. I think he's a really, really good coach, and it's a sort of an awkward situation. A couple of things that kind of come to mind with the whole situation is, number one, the whole Cam Rising situation, where they spent like a year trying to figure out, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? And, kind of kept getting strung along, and it sort of reeked of indecisiveness. To me, this kind of invokes a lot of that, or reminds me a lot of that. Like, there's some indecisiveness on Kyle Whittingham's part there at the end of his administration or his time at Utah. And I think it was Ryan Willie Evil Badger that talked about how, these old guys, as they reach sort of the end of their career, you get that sort of wiffle waffle type of pattern or behavior where, are they going to go or they're not going to go, and then they want to stay, and it creates these sort of awkward situations. So that's one thing I was thinking. And then the second thing I was going to say about Kyle Whittingham is, one program that I always associated with Utah was TCU. Because if you remember, like, Utah and TCU, they both like kind of climbed up the ranks from the lower levels. and it was like a big accomplishment for them to be able to get into the Power Four. And Utah obviously led by Kyle Whittingham and TCU led by Gary Patterson. Both of these were like awesome, incredible head coaches, who sort of were the personality of their program. And the same thing, sort of similar, happened with TCU, where it was sort of an unceremonious ending with the Gary Patterson tenure.
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall that. Like, there's kind of bad blood there at the end. And it's kind of crazy to see how sometimes like these longtime head coaches, who invest a lot of time in these programs, the end of the relationship, it turns into bad blood. Like, I don't know, but I think Kyle Whittingham's going to be a pretty good coach. And I guess I'll just wrap it up with this. Like, the one coach that for whatever reason I've been like kind of thinking about in this case is a guy who also was in the Big 12, Bill Snyder. And Bill Snyder was a guy who, retired once, I guess, and then had to come back to rebuild Kansas State. And it's like, that's like a happy ending, in my opinion. He's a guy who they put his name on the stadium, nothing but positive vibes there. And, you get a young guy like Colin Klein who maybe can sort of bring back some of what Bill Snyder was able to achieve there. But yeah, I think it's kind of an unfortunate situation. I don't really know who to blame in this case, or if anybody is to blame. It's just kind of sort of that breakdown of professionalism at the end of somebody's career, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if that Michigan job would not have come open, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kyle Whittingham probably wouldn't be coaching for 2026. He wasn't going to just take any job. And then the next year, he would not be in position to poach Utah. He still might get back, but it was just a crazy situation that unfolded that nobody predicted.
Yeah, but hey, it's those type of things that make college football the most entertaining sport, right?
Yes, it is. That's why we come.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you have a good one, Greg.
Got it. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yes, sir.
We've got ourselves a massive super chat from OP. D-Dome. OPD done $25 holla. Wait, so you have two minds on that article? Heck, I'm confused with just one mind. So is this why we have Greg the Gold and Bob? Do they fight over the picks? So Bob likes sugar drinks and you like zero drinks? So who does the little general like? Well, she likes me, obviously. The little general is in love with the fat guy from Minnesota, Greg the Gold. Greg the Gold. Bob is an idiot. Bob is a moron. Bob is a twin brother, that imaginary twin brother. A twin brother who is the opposite of me. A complete moron. Weighs 6 pounds less than I do. So forget about him. And Bob can sing. Come on, Karan Shakar. Come on, guys. Come on. OPD Don, thank you so much for your incredible generosity and for your friendship. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it so very much. We're not going to be seeing Bob this year because it's going to be Greg the Gold all year long. Amy Kalani Sataki's raise at the team down south may have had an influence on what Witt asked for. It probably had an influence on what Witt asked for with the NIL money and the $2 million coaching pool for assistants. You could be onto something, Amy. You could be onto something, or you're on something. I think you're onto something. Nice comment. I think that might have been. I think that could have been. Rich Austin agrees with Amy. It absolutely influenced things. Kyle's never going to allow Satake to make more money than him in the state of Utah. Kyle's ultra competitive and petty. Wow, Rich Austin putting the knife in Kyle. We do have, thank you OPD Don, we do got some breaking news. We've got some breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. Holy smokes. Breaking news, Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports. The NCAA proposal would allow FCS programs transitioning to FBS to reach the college football playoff in the first year. We heard earlier today that it looked like that going from FCS to FBS, they would allow Sacramento State, they would allow North Dakota State to make it to a bowl game if they go 6-6. If it's a conference-affiliated tie-in bowl game, there's more. The NCAA proposal would allow them to reach the college football playoffs in their first year, because right now they're not allowed to make the playoffs. There is a 1-year waiver. They got to wait to another year. The rule that barred teams transitioning from FCS to FBS, which is the Sacramento State Hornets, the North Dakota State Bison this year, the rule that barred those teams from playing in postseason play in their first year appears to be on its way out. On Thursday, the Division I FBS Oversight Committee introduced legislation to eliminate the 2-year transition penalty effective with the 2026 season, provided they finish with the 6-6 record. All right. All that's fine. All that, okay, all right, okay. The timing is significant for North Dakota State and Sacramento State, both of which make the jump to FBS in July if the proposal is adopted. When the Division I cabinet meets in June, the programs could play for their way into the postseason eligibility in year one. That includes a path to the conference championship games and the college football playoff. North Dakota State Athletic Director Matt Larson has spent months building the infrastructure for the Bison move to the Mountain West, which was announced in February. He vowed a campaign to change the NCAA's rule on postseason play for first-year FBS teams. Matt Larson is having one hell of a year. It's huge. Larson said of the committee's proposal on Friday, today, it's good for North Dakota State, but it's good for any transitioning programs, especially given the change in landscape of college athletics. The implications extend beyond the bowl games. If approved, the legislation provides North Dakota State and Sacramento State immediate eligibility for the college football playoff, a scenario that would have been unthinkable under the old rules, should they qualify on the field. It is not far-fetched possibility. Bison administrators believe they are positioned to compete immediately at college football's top level. North Dakota State has won 10 FCS national championships in the last 15 years, one of the most dominant runs in modern college football. The school also quietly secured $25 million in donor commitments, while the administrators worked fervorously behind the scenes in the winter to finalize the Mountain West deal. The CFP would be great if we had an opportunity, but really for us, it was more about being able to qualify for the Mountain West championship game if we're fortunate enough to be in that position, Larson said. It's an opportunity to qualify for the postseason. If we're able to earn it on the field, let's have that opportunity. The proposal still requires feedback from NCAA membership before the committee acts on its May 7th meeting. If adopted, the action would be subject to review by the Division I cabinet in June before final approval. North Dakota State opens spring ball Monday, and Larson said the energy around the program has matched the moment. Look, guys, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Of course, they should be able to make the playoffs this year if they qualify on the field. Of course, they should be able to go to a bowl game if they finish 6-6 and higher. North Dakota State is spending a lot of money to get to the Mountain West Conference. Sacramento State is spending a lot of money to play in the MAC Conference. Those schools are getting more money because of those two schools. Those conferences are getting more money because of those two schools. Allow them in. Allow them in. Now, if we're going to be talking about Greg the Gold in a moment here. Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. We're going to be talking about Greg the Gold in a moment here. If this proposal makes it on through, if it becomes the law of the college football land, how does that change your perception on who could be the top ranked 2026 G6 program? Does this change your prediction? Does this change your thinking? Is Greg the Gold, and I am going to be Greg the Gold this year. Hold on a second. Am I going to have to write in? Am I going to have to write in North Dakota State in my way too early playoff predictions for 2026? If this passes. Are you going to have to put North Dakota State in your prediction? Let's take a look at their football schedule. Let's take a quick look at it. Again, are they going to be able to compete and win at this level in 2026? Jacksonville State, Fordham, Air Force, Sacramento. They got that game with Sacramento State. September 19th. That's an FBS game between a MAC school and a Mountain West. North Dakota State at Sacramento State is an FBS game between a Mountain West opponent, North Dakota State, versus a MAC opponent, Sacramento State. I'm going to tell you guys something. North Dakota State and FCS most of the time would not even think about scheduling South Sacramento State because they would have whooped them most years. It would not have been competitive. But both of them are making the jump to FBS. Wyoming, that game at UNLV, Dan Mullen. Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, UTEP, Hawaii is going to be a good team this year. And of course, Northern Illinois. At home, Northern Illinois. San Jose State lost a bunch of wide receivers and their quarterback. Could North Dakota State be a monster story for 2026. We have got a $5 super chat. $5 holla. Preston from Greensboro, super chat. I hear rumors of the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, and Greg the Gold. Never actually seen any of them. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. I think Greg the Gold made a couple of appearances last year, but it was only 2 or 3. And it was tough. It was a tough year last year, and yet it was my best year in 4 years of doing this program. That's how bad I've been. But I keep getting better. And next year it is Greg the Gold. I thought more schools, thank you, Preston from Greensboro, appreciate it. He also said, I thought more schools would expand their football programs. The opposite has happened. Kenneth Maynard, Wyoming is a cool brand. Want them to improve. John Grove, North Dakota State versus Wyoming is the Craig Bowl Classic or the Super Bowl. Wow. Very nice. Very nice. Good job, John Grove. That was a good one. Good one. Hold on one second here. So we did get some breaking news. Let's see if there's any more out here. Again, I appreciate you all joining us. Most of you are watching college basketball. I get it, but I had to do a live show yesterday. I had to do a live show today. We're going to do a live show tomorrow, although it's going to be later on in the evening. A lot of stuff going on in college football. We are going to keep up with it. And of course, do I dare do this? You know what? I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna have to get some UAP music. I'm gonna have to get some UFO music. Again, we talk about it. We've talked about it before. All you guys laugh at me. All of you laugh at me. ABC News, drone sighting that temporarily raised alarms at one of the U.S. Air Force's largest and most strategic airfields was more extensive and potentially more dangerous than first reported, per a confidential internal briefing documented review by ABC News. I'm not going to go through the whole story. This is a call, but if the story gets pushed a little bit further, we'll spend a little bit more time on it. But again, there were drones that were flying over. We used our highest technological jamming devices, and we did not bring these drones down. They did not come down from the sky. We don't know where they came from. Once again, there's something in the skies. I don't even want to say it. But I got to say it. Have dominance over us. We don't know what the heck they are. It happened again. Nick, the Virginia Techie Hokie. Great. You have not mentioned March Madness. Okay. What do you want me to talk about in March Madness? I don't really talk college basketball here. It's college football 99% of the time. And then the other 1%, well, the other 1% is a mystery. It's an absolute mystery. The scores are, okay. The scores are Tennessee 60, Miami 36. Villanova and Utah 66-65. Wow, that's a good game. Iowa and Clemson are going to meet. Northern Iowa, St. John's, UCF, UCLA, Queens University, Purdue, Prairie View, Florida, California Baptist, Kansas, Furman, UConn, Missouri, Miami, Arizona defeated Long Island University. Iowa State clobbered Tennessee State. Virginia over Wright State. Alabama over 20 over Hofstra. The Red Raiders 20 over Akron. Kentucky wins a miracle game against Santa Clara in overtime. There it is. There is your March Madness report. If they're Chinese drones, Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina, if they are Chinese drones, we are in trouble. But I don't think they are, because the Chinese Communist government still steals our technology when it comes to our airplanes, our engines that we put in our airplanes, our fighter jets. I cannot believe they've got drones that we cannot bring down, like ever. We can't capture one of them. I don't know. I think we're in trouble. And they're definitely not Russian, and they're definitely not Iranian. If they were, Russian doesn't have that technology. If they were, they'd be using it in Ukraine, and that war would be over. Can you imagine drones that can fly over hours and hours and hours and not get, nothing works on them? No, I think it's something else, guys. I think it's something else. March Madness. Oh, wrestling. Sorry, wrestling. Well, I don't have, sorry, my bad. Congratulations to Penn State and all the teams that are dominating in wrestling. Sorry, guys, I don't have time to cover it. Maybe tomorrow, check in with tomorrow. But I'm going to go here. We've only had a little bit of time to do a live show. I appreciate it. We will, again, these shows are a little bit shorter during March Madness. We'll get back to it. I know there's a lot of interest in basketball, not so much in football right now. Eva Badger, MBM, OPD Don, and Preston from North Carolina. Thank you guys so much for your generosity, helping us keep the lights on. Very much appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe. Smash the like button before you leave. Get yourself notified. Ring the notification bell. Gophers versus Green Bay women's basketball tonight. Yep. Yes, hopefully Gophers can win. Hopefully they can win. All right. Until next time, which is going to be tomorrow, Saturday, March 21st. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much. And as always, God, family, Golden Gophers.